The Final Terror is a lesson that sometimes, just sometimes, you need stupid character decisions in slasher movies. Let's review The Final Terror. The Final Terror stars Daryl Hannah, Adrian Zmed, Joe Pantoliano, and is directed by Andrew Davis. What's up, guys? It's time for another classic slasher review. This is a backwoods slasher called The Final Terror. Somebody sent me, if you sent me this, let me know. Somebody sent me this. I think I did an unbox for it like maybe a year ago, something like that when I got it. But if you sent me this, please let me know down in the comments. I just watched this for the first time. I noticed it was on Shudder, actually. And, you know, I always check Shudder and Tubi just to see what's new, what's popping up, not just for the newer movies, but also the classic movies. You know, sometimes I'll see a movie that's like from the 70s, you know, early 70s, and I'm more inclined to click on that stuff than I am the current stuff. That's just the way I am. You know, I love this old stuff. This is 1983 is when this was released.
The legend is told in whispers, an unholy tale of an unknown force, alien to this world.
You don't know what you're dealing with, lady.
Without knowing, they have awakened a terrifying evil.
We want to get out of here!
Alone and unprotected, now comes the naked horror. See The Final Terror.
But it was actually shot in '81. But it came out because of two people. Daryl Hannah, who had done Splash, and also Adrian Zmed, who did Grease 2. Grease 2 is the reason this movie was finally put out. I'm showing you the background. Was finally put out. And that does happen sometimes. Texas Chainsaw Massacre Next Generation, that's another one that was shelved for a while. And then you had Renee Zellweger, Matthew McConaughey, their careers took off. And then, oh, we got to put this movie out, you know? We got some star power here. So, same type deal here. Now, to give you a quick plot synopsis on The Final Terror, it's a movie about a group of campers. They go on this weekend excursion in the forest. And they just want to have some fun, right? But there's this killer on the loose. Now, you have this very eccentric character, too, named Edgar, played by the great Joe Pantoliano, who went on to freaking be in so many things. The freaking Matrix, Eddie and the Cruisers, and a million other things. I love Joe Pants. He's just got that something unique about him. When you see him on the screen, you want to watch, you know? And this is no different. He's very unique in this movie. The character, the way he's dealt with is kind of weird and peculiar because he's the driver, he's the transportation guy taking these young people to the woods so they can have their little camping trip. And, you know, you got a couple of the characters, especially this one by the name of Zorik, who is also a very unique, eccentric character.
Keep off my ass. Zorik, goddammit. We need your help.
You're damn right you do.
And he's constantly picking on Edgar. And then, like in the first act of the movie, Edgar just ends up disappearing. And so for the rest of the movie, they're trying to find him and figure out what's going on. But also, there is this death, this murder that happens. And so that leads everybody into thinking that Edgar is the killer. So it's one of these type movies where the characters, they think this person is a certain killer, and the audience. So we don't know if Edgar is the killer or not. Now, because this is a catalog title, and I usually talk spoilers in these types of movies, I will talk spoilers. It'll be in the later part of the review, and I'll give you a warning once we get there, okay? Just in case a lot of you haven't seen this movie. I guarantee a lot of you guys have not seen some of these deep cut movies that I've been reviewing. So I'm very careful with spoilers until a certain point, and I always give you a warning. Now, when you look at the print of this movie, it definitely feels like something that was kind of, I guess, cobbled together. It's not, you know, it doesn't look like a lot of those great transfers that we might see, you know, the 35 millimeter transfers, like say for like Halloween, you know, that the original master is there and they can work from that. Well, this one was something that I think they had to take from different sources to put together the best print that they possibly could, thanks to Shout Factory for doing that. And this is one of those movies that might have been shelved for eternity until two of the stars kind of broke out. and then it was eventually released. But I don't think the master was taken care of that well, or maybe it was even just lost. I don't know. And I'm sure that happens to a lot of these older films, you know. I've always been interested in that, you know, where they keep these masters, these reels, and because sometimes you hear that they're kept in the weirdest place. Sometimes just the director himself just keeps the master. I don't know. Sometimes there's a studio will have a warehouse where they keep them, like say Warner Brothers. But if it's an independent type of film, it could be in the freaking bottom of a basement or the top of an attic somewhere, you know, lost forever. As a matter of fact, I hear that like somebody bought one of the reels, one of the prints from the original Halloween, and they were trying to acquire it just so they could use it for like a future release. But the guy, he wants way too much money, you know. You can research that. There's stories about that out there. And that's his right and everything. But I guess he's got like a whole bunch of deleted scenes that we have never seen from the original Halloween. Now, Andrew Davis, who went on to direct The Fugitive, U.S. Marshals, I think Under Siege, quite a few things, this was his first movie. And I do think it's well directed. I think it's got a big cast. You know, I mentioned Adrian Zmed and Daryl Hannah, but you also got the great Mark Metcalf from the Twisted Sister videos. What do you want to do with your life? I want to rock.
What do you want to do with your life? I want to rock!
Yeah, I noticed him immediately, and he looks younger in this, but he's kind of fit. Like, I guess you could call him like the camp counselor. He's like the leader of all these guys, giving them chores, telling them what to do and whatnot. If this was a Friday the 13th movie, he would be like the lead camp counselor. So he's that guy. Now, he's in a relationship with this young girl named Melanie, and there's a sex scene in the first act of the movie. And, you know, right before that, they were in the lake together, nice and romantic. And so what I liked about this scene was you're like really into, you know, you think it's just a nice tender moment, and then boom, there's a freaking, like a bill hook comes down and stabs the guy. You know, I guess you could say it's kind of like the shish kebab kill from Twitch of the Death Nerve. Although it doesn't go through both of them. You know, he just gets hacked up. And so his girlfriend, she reacts to that, and then she is kind of held captive for the second act of the movie. But it's a violent scene, you know, kind of comes out of nowhere. I think that's one of the strengths of this movie is the unpredictability of the kills. Because there's so few of them, you kind of settle into almost expecting there not to be kills. So when they happen, it is quite surprising. And that kill did catch me off guard. You know, I guess you could say it's a jump scare, an effective jump scare, and this movie has a couple of them, actually. The next one involving the raft later, where, you know, the group, they're in the raft and they're just kind of going along, and then all of a sudden freaking Melanie's body just drops out of nowhere right on top of the raft. And, you know, concerning the kills, this movie, when it was, you know, first finished, you know, they always have to go back in and do reshoots. Well, that opening scene with the young couple and their deaths, that was shot after the fact because they were told that you don't have enough kills in this movie. So they went back and they shot that. So I think they had to like space out these kills accordingly to make it feel like there were more kills. Although I don't think this movie has enough kills, but I don't really think the crime is not enough kills. I think too many people live in this movie. I want to say maybe 5 or 6 people are left standing by the end of this movie, which is unheard of in slasher movies, you know? Most of the time, it's usually one final girl that's left standing at the end. If you're lucky, 2 people. Maybe her boyfriend gets to live too. But at the end of this movie, I'm just like, all those people lived? Are you kidding me? This is kind of weird. I guess you could say it's kind of refreshing too. You know, it's unique. It doesn't follow the normal template for a slasher movie. So you can be a little bit kind of befuzzled. Is that a word after watching this movie? Because you're like, did I like that? It wasn't what I wanted, but it's refreshing. I don't know. Now, this is a backwoods slasher. I think the granddaddy of backwoods slashers is Just Before Dawn. You know, thank you to freaking Wolfman's Got Nards for introducing me to that one a few years ago. And that's just the gold standard. It's so freaking good. The kills are amazing. There's plenty of them. It's got that great backwoods atmosphere to it. This does have really great atmosphere. I will give it that. I know that behind the scenes there were, some challenges filming in the woods, especially at night. When they would try to film at night, it would just be black. They couldn't see anything. Just goes to show how important lighting is. So, there's like one scene on the bus where they had to kind of shoot day for night. And you can tell, it looks like they got the windows covered up and you can see just some little glimpses of light, I guess, around. And, this is pretty common. Like, I think Rob Zombie's Halloween actually was filmed day for night during, a lot of the interior shots in the houses. And one big pro I can give this movie is it definitely has that early 80s type of feel to it, The 80s is made up of two different styles of filming, like the first half of the 80s and the second half of the 80s. The second half feels more, I guess, MTV-like, whereas the first half does feel like darker, almost like the tail end of the 70s type feel. This one definitely has that feel. That's probably my favorite era of cinema, early 80s. But remember when I said in the intro about stupid character decisions? Sometimes you want those stupid character decisions because, like I said earlier, too many people live in this movie because they all stay together. They all pretty much do what should be done to try to survive. And they do split off a couple of times, but, I think if they would have split off more, we would have had more deaths in this movie. I think the killer is primed for some good deaths. It just doesn't happen. And maybe that's because of budgetary reasons. Having to film a kill scene can probably take up a whole day, so they had to be very, I guess, strategic about, the kills and how they wanted to do them. But it might have been a happy accident, kind of like what they did with Jaws, where you couldn't, the shark wouldn't stay up. And so the less is more approach, maybe that worked for this. Although I have seen some people state that this movie, maybe it wasn't that successful because it is kind of boring. It does have some boring spots in the middle. I personally think it's, I think they played it right. It's just boring enough up until a point, and then when the kill happens, at least the kill is, it's a big surprise and it's memorable. Now, talking about the reveal, the last act, so here's where some heavy spoilers are. And this is literally like the last scene in the movie. We finally find out who the killer is. There's this mystery about it, and it happens to be Edgar's mother. Another one of those movies where you have the mother being the killer, like the first Friday the 13th. And she's got this whole getup on, like she's Rambo hiding in the forest. And I guess the backstory, it's told earlier in the movie, how she was this, she was in this mental ward. And her son got her out, but she was so crazy that he ended up just kind of leaving her in the woods. And anytime somebody came in the woods, she would go and kill them. And at the beginning of the movie, he's begging them, let's do not go to this section, okay? If we go here, there could be danger. So this is a case where Edgar is trying to tell them, don't go there, but they go there anyway. But I guess it wasn't so bad because 5 of them lived. But one of the big memorable things is the very end of this movie. She's coming across this log. She lets out this shriek. That is so loud and crazy and memorable. It reminded me of, remember when they did the special editions of the Star Wars movies, the first Star Wars, and they put in this Obi-Wan Kenobi shriek that was really weird sounding? Well, just think of like the horror version of that. That's what you got with this, and it was silly. She cuts Zorik's Achilles heel, and then he falls down to his death. And then there's this big freaking contraption, which, guys, help me out. I don't know if the young kids actually made that, because they didn't show them making that, kind of like what they did in Predator. Or maybe it was just there and she got killed by her own trap. But this big freaking log contraption just comes forward and it impales her. And then she dies. And then that's the end of the movie. So as far as being memorable, I think the movie's very memorable. I had a good time with it. But it does have some slow spots in the middle. It's definitely not your traditional slash, which can be seen as a good thing. So, but I'll definitely give it a humdrum. I would say definitely check out The Final Terror. It's on Shudder right now. Somebody said it's on Tubi too, so it's worth a watch, I think, for sure. Okay? So let me know what you guys think when you see it. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day. And on Fridays, we do Free for Fridays. Follow me at Drumdums on my social, support me on Patreon, buy me a coffee, and you guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a good day. Drumdum out.